My name is Kevin Frank. Welcome to the Turf Team Update once again this week. We missed last week due to some scheduling challenges I had. Wasn't necessarily Jeff's fault, so we're glad to have Jeff back this week to give us a weather update. So for the week of August 25th and coming up, Dr. Jeff Andresen, please take it away.
Will do. Good afternoon here, and we've got quite a bit to, well, we have a lot to catch up on here with the last 2 weeks, but I'll start with another little new wrinkle that we don't see very often, but this is a product which comes out and actually is a forecast of smoke in the atmosphere, and it is a reflection of the massive wildfires going on in hundreds of locations out across the West. And the gist of this is you can see some of the densest smoke out here, which are the reds, the darker reds, but this area is making its way eastward, and it actually now is over Michigan. This is a little over a day old, but we do have some of the smoke here. The good news on this is that most of the smoke is trapped above the surface in a layer of air there, a stable layer. That's good, and it probably will not make it down to the surface. So the bottom line is we'll probably be seeing this if we see the sun, and we probably will over the next couple of days. But the sunsets will probably be fairly spectacular with all that smoke in the atmosphere, and it will be hazy during the day. That's the other impact here. But the good news is we won't see it near the surface. So that'll be with us here until the weekend, and then we have a big weather change coming. Looking at the last week here. Not a surprise, given a very, very summer-like week, but above normal temperatures once again statewide and over most of the Great Lakes region. But you can see most of Michigan somewhere between 2 and 4 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. That's consistent with much of the growing season thus far. The bigger story, though, on the right-hand side, our weekly precipitation totals range from fairly healthy, more than 2-inch totals up in western upper Michigan to basically zero. Down here across much of the southern half of the Lower Peninsula. And that is, I'm sure everybody is, certainly if you're in that area, that has become the major issue. And the dryness actually in much of this area goes on beyond that. There's only been a couple of days with precipitation really in the last 3 to 4 weeks. So the southern half of, really almost the southern half of Michigan has trended unusually dry here over the last few weeks. And that has caused, a rapid decline in water availability, et cetera, and certainly an increase in moisture stress symptoms. Degree day totals for the season with the warmer than normal temperatures, not a surprise, still running well ahead of normal. Most of the state is averaging from about a week to, in some cases, maybe even now pushing 2 calendar weeks ahead of normal for the last part of or late August. So we have degree day surpluses, and even with a little bit cooler weather here in part of our forecast, I think it's still very, very likely that we will end up the season with surpluses of growing degree days here as we move into the fall. I'll talk more about that here in a little bit. Back to the moisture, though. One interesting reflection of this, we show this map from the U.S. Drought Monitor depicting conditions. It's a little bit out of date because it comes out every Thursday morning. So to get really a very a very recent one, but this is last week's issuance of this from last Thursday. And you can see that in Michigan, really the area of yellow here, only the D0 are abnormally dry. We did have some D1 in the weeks preceding that, but there's been a real significant decrease in the amount of area impacted by dryness since the early and middle part of August is when it had peaked, when more than 50% of the state was in D0 or D1, and now it's down to, I think around 10%. So big decrease. The question is why, especially given the maps I just showed you with the precipitation. We do have drought symptoms across the state, and I suspect that there will be some changes in this particular metric here later on in the week that do reflect more of the state, especially, again, the southern half of the state. That's where the dryness is most intense or pronounced. And so don't be surprised if we do see some changes here in the next couple of days with this particular product issued this week. In the forecast, there are some changes in progress. We have a few more days of very, very warm temperatures, but today we've got a couple of frontal boundaries here across the state. And in essence, we've seen this a lot of this growing season, and today, actually yesterday, and for the next couple of days, these frontal boundaries will be a little bit further south and west than they have been, especially south. The northern parts of the state, as you probably know and appreciate, have been doing very well in terms of precipitation and water. They've been closer to the main storm track, and it's mainly because this frontal boundary, which tends to hang around here this time of the year, was close by. Well, it's actually sagged to the south, and for the next 12 to 18 hours or so, we're actually going to see our wind shift around in much of the state to a northerly direction and take the temperatures down just a notch, but the humidity's down a little bit as well. We'll see nighttime temperatures across Michigan will be a few degrees cooler than they have been the last couple. That'll be one reflection besides the wind. It's not, but it is a frontal boundary there. And when we have so much heat and humidity in the region, it sets off showers and thunderstorms, or at least can serve to set off showers and thunderstorms. We have one area here that's actually been going now for the last 12 hours, down in the lower left-hand corner. You can see moving out of, it actually started in Minnesota and northwestern Wisconsin, and is going to clip the southeastern portion of the state. It's actually moved in to portions of southwestern lower Michigan. So a few lucky areas down there will pick up some rain here this afternoon. That will gradually move out of the state. We'll see some clearing over most areas of the lower peninsula here later by mid to late afternoon into the evening. And then there will be another round. I probably similar to this one, starting overnight and then continuing into tomorrow morning. That's the next chance for rainfall, certainly for the lower peninsula. And I suspect that the round tonight will probably impact a little bit more of the state than this first one does. But even with that, we're only talking probably a 30, maybe a 40% chance for showers. So this will not be a widespread rain event, but some areas will be lucky and pick up some much needed moisture. And that's going to be set the stage really for the next 2 to 3 days. Here are forecast conditions for tomorrow morning. You can see at that point, the frontal boundary begins to move back to the north again as a warm front along this big battle division line between the warm and the cooler air. And during late tomorrow and into Thursday, it'll be going northward as a warm front and bring more heat back into the state. We'll see high temperatures here by Thursday, maybe above 90 in many locations. Before the next major weather system of consequence, that's out here. You can see a cold front with an area of low pressure up over Manitoba. That will move through here on Friday into Saturday, and that's the one that's going to cause the big change. And if you're also watching here too across the map, you can see what is now Hurricane Laura out in the Gulf of Mexico, making its way northwestward towards the Gulf Coast. And right now, the best guess is that it makes landfall early Thursday morning somewhere along the Texas-Louisiana coast. And with time, the progs and looking at the forecast guidance, it's suggesting that Laura may be a major hurricane before it makes landfall. And then one of the big questions is, and I've already had people call me and ask me, is there any chance that some of the moisture with that could make it up here into the Great Lakes region? And of course, the answer is yes, but typically it's not common for that moisture, the remnants, to make it this far north. It can happen. Right now, though, it looks like, based on what we see, is that it won't quite make it here. And I'll show you a little bit more of that here in just a second. Here's the map for Thursday morning. You can see that the hurricane has made landfall. That if you have interest in that part of the world, you need to be keeping a pretty close watch, because right now, again, it is looking like it could be a significant event for that part of the U.S. You can see lots of moisture with Laura way up into the lower and middle Mississippi Valley heading towards us, but it's going to do right now. The expectation is that Laura will make it up to about Missouri and then do a pretty sharp eastward or right-hand turn as it encounters the westerlies in the mid-latitudes. And then instead of heading north up towards us, it'll head more towards the Appalachians and off towards the mid-Atlantic, and then out into the Atlantic, once again, probably by the weekend. For us, though, that's don't give up hope for precipitation, because I mentioned this next weather system. This is associated with a fairly potent upper air wave coming through, and there's still going to be plenty of low-level moisture here. And as we look at the day on, this is Thursday. I didn't put in a Friday map in here, but this cold front will go through late Friday into Saturday morning. And this really, I think, is our best chance for significant rainfall that we've had, especially across southern lower Michigan, in at least 2 weeks. And I'm hopeful for this one. I think we've got a really good shot at picking up some fairly widespread rain with that. Could even see some strong thunderstorms as that goes through, depending on the time of the day the front actually moves through. But I put an extra map in here. This is for Saturday morning at 8 o'clock. And this is these are surface low pressure systems. Right down here in northern Kentucky, that's the remnants of Laura. So you can see it comes up to Missouri, and then again, it takes a real sharp right-hand turn and moves off. And again, that's the upper air here is pretty much west to east. But right here in Michigan, all this green here, this is precipitation that the model guidance sees, and it's associated with the upper wave and with actually quite a bit of moisture down below. So I'm crossing my fingers. I think this is our best chance. So we'll see showers and thunderstorms develop from west to east late on Friday and continue on into Saturday. There'll be a few lingering showers during the day in eastern parts of the state, but we should gradually see clearing. And then the other big chance, these red lines here are called thickness lines, and they basically are a reflection of how warm or how cold the atmosphere. And if these were in motion here, what you'd be seeing is air out of Canada moving southward into the northern part of the U.S., including Michigan. So we're in for a big cool down. Major, very, very noticeable drop in temperatures on Saturday and then continuing Sunday, and probably for the bulk of next week. Right now, we're looking for a fairly pronounced and lengthy change to cooler, and we'll call it wetter than normal. It's been a little while since we've seen that, but there'll be more frequent chances for precipitation. After Friday, Saturday, the next chance for precip, I think, will probably be Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. And again, we're looking at high temperatures, in some cases not making it out of the 60s, and lows into the upper 40s and 50s. Think about that versus what we've had here recently in much of the state with upper 80s or even 90, and then low temperatures. Last night, our low temperature here locally didn't make it out of the 70s. So much, much above normal temperatures we've had, but big changes coming for the weekend, and then probably continuing for much of next week. The precipitation totals here forecast, and this one I would say it's very aggressive. That pretty much says it all. You can see 1 to 2 inches of precipitation forecast here by next Tuesday morning. And I guess I look at this and again take with a little bit of grain of salt. This is the potential for precipitation, and it assumes that all of these showers, that the scattered activity that we have now and tomorrow and into Thursday add up to something. A lot of this precipitation that you see here is the system that I talked about for Friday and Saturday, but I think it's probably a little bit on the high side for what we'll typically see. And I think most areas would be thrilled to pick up a half an inch of rain, maybe 3/4 of an inch of rain. That would hopefully do wonders, at least to prevent further deterioration of conditions on the surface given the recent dryness. So it is very bullish on precip. And again, probably more coming by the middle of next week. That also looks like a fairly significant rainfall event as well. PET rates are going to be elevated here for the next couple days while we still have above normal temperatures. That'll be through Friday. But after that, they'll be dropping off significantly. And the average for the whole week here between 13 and 1600ths of an inch. So we'll be much closer to that high end here for the next couple days, and then drop down to probably 1/10 of an inch or so by the weekend and into early next week. So fairly large decrease, and this is how it averages out here for most areas, again around 1500ths or so, but they'll be high and then low. And then in the medium range forecast guidance, I talked about the change coming up this weekend. The upper air here, once again, unusually amplified jet stream flow, which big troughs and ridges, we just typically don't see that in the late summer, but we've seen a lot of it this growing season, and a big change in the configuration. Remember, we've had a big ridge over the middle of North America for a lot of the growing season. Well, at least for next week, this is the 30th through the 3rd of September, we've got this replaced by a trough. All of the guidance suggests that this will be moving west to east through the westerlies or through the jet stream, so it will be progressive. It won't hang out there, but there might be one more behind it. So at least one, possibly passage of 2 big troughing systems. And you can see the very, very profound impact it has on our temperature forecast. Below normal mean temperatures forecast for a large portion of the central U.S., including Michigan. It's been a while since we've really seen that for any extended period of time. And just as importantly, or even more importantly, there's a bullseye here for much above normal precipitation right over the central Corn Belt, but going on up into Michigan. And for precipitation, which is harder to forecast or more difficult to forecast than the mean temperatures, that's a strong signal from the forecaster, strong confidence in that happening. And I mentioned a big system probably by the middle of next week, and then maybe one the weekend after that. We're going to be looking at probably some fairly big weather event. At least that's what the model guidance thinks right now, is that there will be some fairly large events coming through the region or traversing the region from west to east during the next 1 to 1.5 weeks. The 8 to 14 day outlook just after this is pretty similar. It backs off a little bit. The jet stream becomes less amplified with time, but at least for this first week of September, and we had a hint of that before in the last week and a little before that there was a change coming, and it may be at least a week long though, where we do see a cool, unsettled weather pattern take hold. New long lead outlooks for the month of September, that's on the top, and then the 3-month outlook for September through November. Very similar here, lots of continuity, both temperature forecast for September and then the fall forecast for September through November. Both of those call for elevated or above normal mean temperatures, and that's consistent with the last several months and with all the other guides we had. A little bit of a difference on precip. You can see for both these, we're in the EC, or Michigan is in the EC, or equal chances, so no real direction forecast-wise for totals to be above or below normal. And that's a little bit of a difference from what previous outlooks had suggested. Some had even suggested maybe a little wetter than normal, but the temperature, I think, the above normal temperatures is probably the important take-home message here as we get into starting to move into a transitional season. The period, the October through December period, is also similar to this, but if you're interested then beyond, we have, we're now a 60% chance or probability of a La Nina event developing in the equatorial Pacific coming up here this fall and winter. And if that happens, we may tend to see a fairly winter-like winter, maybe snowier than normal or above normal precipitation and at least normal. Sometimes we see below normal temperatures with La Nina winters. So stand by on that one. Typically that's the middle to latter part of the winter, but that'll be probably part of our outlook before too long if that La Nina event does develop as it is suggested now. And so summarizing here, a couple more days of very, very summer-like weather with scattered showers and thunderstorms across the state. High temperatures, or all of our temperatures basically, several degrees, 5 to 10 degrees above the normal through Friday, but then big change coming for the weekend. The next best chance, I think it's significantly especially for southern parts of the state, is that the opportunity or chance for rainfall here on Friday. We will have some before that, but that's our best chance that we've had for a while. Late Friday into Saturday, hopefully we will see some significant rains with that. And then our temperatures drop off probably a good 10 degrees from where they have been. So looking at back daytime values in the 70s and lows in the 50s and even some upper 40s, it'll feel a lot more like early fall than late summer. And as you just saw for the medium range guidance, it does suggest a continuation of that pattern, at least through the first week of September, with cooler and wetter than normal conditions. And then in contrast, our new long leads still suggesting warmer than normal temperatures to come back later in September and probably for a good portion of the upcoming fall. And with that, I'll wrap up and just say again, with I have been amazed looking at conditions here and how much change there's been in 1 to 2 weeks with turf. In my own grass, even the crabgrass is complaining for water in my place, and it very, very, very noticeable rapid change that we typically don't see. I dug some holes for fence posts on Sunday and was just shocked. I went down 2.5 feet. There was no water. I'm on a coarse textured, well-drained spink sand, which is not a good water soil, but I was really shocked to see how dry it was, like California or like it is out in the arid West. We just don't typically see those kind of conditions here in Michigan very often, but there are large areas of Michigan, and especially in the southern half, that have similar conditions there as well.
Thanks, Jeff. We really appreciate it. I'd agree with you, especially in this part of the state. The dry conditions have really become evident on anything that's not irrigated. And even I think a lot of places that are irrigated, people just haven't maybe adjusted
Yeah.
the amount of water that they need to be applying. So this, your forecast talking about cooler and wetter. I think that's exactly what we kind of need right now to start recovering a little bit.
Hopefully that will help prevent further deterioration. And we are getting towards the end of the season certainly for some our annuals and so forth, and some can still benefit with the water, and certainly the turf we would hope would be able to. And with cooler temperatures, less water demand, less water stress. Hopefully that will help get things back in gear. But it's been a long haul. I'm looking at some rainfall records. In some parts, we're drier than normal all the way back to portions of June. And of course, that's not the time of the year where we want that to happen, to be without precip. There are many areas of the state, the northern lower and the upper peninsula that have done well beyond normal. Again, just happened to be in the right place. But we've got lots of contrasting landscape out there, from too much water, or at least enough water, to too little.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. Thanks, Jeff. We'll see you again next week. Appreciate it.
See you next week.